welcome to Revive and Rise. I'm your host, Melody Parrish. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. So for the month of June, we've been talking about ways to build strength and resilience. And one is to be open and make space for different practices and different mind spaces. We've also been discussing refilling yourselves and making time for yourself. Well, today we're going to talk about comparison. And just a little statistics for the comparison is that 10% of our daily thoughts are comparing ourselves with others, comparing ourselves with different things, with what society thinks. And so we need to try. It's okay to compare ourselves if we're comparing ourselves in positive, non-judgmental ways. If we're thinking of how we can learn or how we can get better or how we can understand, then and how we can grow, those things are positive ways that we can compare ourselves. But then there's the negative ways, and that's the ways that many of us fall into that trap. And those are not good for us. Those are not good for our mental health. Those are not good. They lead to poor decision making. They lead to negative thoughts. There's so many different negative things about negative comparison practices. So we're going to talk a little about that. We're going to talk about subconscious and conscious comparisons. And with our subconscious comparisons, those are things that we're not even aware of that we do. And we are fed so many subconscious ideas and ways of thinking by society in very subtle and very big ways, and we don't even realize it. If you think about it, things that you see on television tell you what characteristics a woman should have or a female should have and what characteristics a male should have. Things that are on television tell you what exactly a happy, satisfied couple should look like. It even tells you what a family should look like and what a successful person should look like, and all these different things from television, from social media, and other things, and we tend to just interact with those things. And even if you think about like soap or like shampoo, for women there's scents of flowers and scents of things like that. And then you have scents for men that are rugged and tough and strong, and it just symbolizes kind of that women are seen as delicate, and men are supposed to be seen as strong. And we get these things that, to be a man, to be masculine, you have to have certain characteristics, as in you have to be buff and be strong and don't show your emotions and all these different things, because then other characteristics like sensitivity and caring and empathy, those are considered female characteristics, and you get scorned for those if you're a male. You get scorned for being sensitive. There's so many different aspects of this, and we tend to buy into it, and we tend to fall into that trap, and we tend to compare ourselves, and if you think about females, we totally have a problem with body image. You know, we're supposed to be thinner, and we're supposed to look young, and we're supposed to, you know, have long, luxurious hair, and we're supposed to, you know, wear makeup, and females to dress up, tend to wear dresses. You know, I mean, as far as me personally, I usually only wear a dress when I am dressing up for some event. And that's a whole mental state too. You know, femininity is supposed to be, oh, we have to fix ourselves. We have to have, you know, some sort of surgery. We have to have Botox to look younger. We have to have breast enlargements to have the perfect body. Or, you know, if you're curvy, or you are overweight, well, that's seen as negative, when all female bodies are beautiful in their own way. You know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and we're all beautiful in different ways, whether we have, you know, whether what hair we have, whether we wear makeup or whether we don't, or whether we dress a certain way or whether we don't, or the body we have, or there's so many different things in our own ways that make us beautiful, and we need to realize that. So many women will look at models on television or celebrities on television and say, I want to look like that. I want to be that. So we get nose jobs and nips and tucks and all these different things, teeth whitening, and we need to lose weight, and all of these different things for body image. When you see on social media, you know, oh, you want to lose weight. Well, you need to do this exercise. You need to eat better. And the goal isn't, you know, expressed as to be healthier or to feel better or to be more active. But what's expressed is, oh, if you want to lose weight, if you want to have the body you've always wanted, if you want to have better looking thighs or more distinct abs, or, you know, things like that. And we don't really consider the fact that these subliminal messages that we're sent really do have a negative effect on us as women. I know personally, for a large part of my life, I felt very dissatisfied with the body I was in. You know, I've always had large hips, and I've always seen that, up until recently, I've always seen that as a negative thing. So I would try to exercise, and and when that didn't work, I would try to eat healthier and to lose weight. And when that didn't work, I would just get discouraged and just say, okay, well, I just don't like this part of me. I just don't like this at all. And I had to realize that, you know what, I should be thankful for the body that I have, and see these things as a way of beauty and as a thing of beauty. And, you know, my face is not evenly colored, I guess you'd say that. So, you know, that's one thing most people put on makeup to even out their skin tone, or things like that. And, you know, or putting, you know, makeup on for certain reasons. And some women, you know, just like the way it makes them feel. And that's great. That's great. If it makes you feel good and it makes you happy, then by all means do it. But if you're doing it so that you can look better, or so that you can fit into a mold that society has for you, that's where it becomes negative. If you look in the mirror and you see your face and you're like, oh, I can't let anybody else see me like this. I have to put on some makeup and I have to, because my face just isn't up to standards, then that's where it's negative. I reached a point in my life where I just decided that, you know what, I just don't want to wear makeup anymore, and it's okay. And now I look at my face and I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad like I thought it was. I thought that things were so bad, and I thought, in the summer I get little freckles, and I thought, oh, I don't like those, and I don't like this, and I don't like that. But you know what? I look at my face now, and I'm like, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I don't know what made me think that it was so bad. And then I realized that, it's all these subliminal messages that we feel and that we're fed. So those are the negative things. And it's not just for women, it's men as well. They're supposed to be strong. They're the strong ones, and they're supposed to have all these muscles, and they're supposed to, have these rugged features. Far be it if a woman has rugged features. If we are born with a muscular body, if we have a muscular body, no, then you're said, no, you're too manly, or no, you're too masculine. And it's so unfair, because even if a woman has masculine features, they're still a woman, and they're still beautiful in their own ways. And just as if a man has more feminine features, not the chiseled cheekbones, or has a little wider hips than most men do. It's okay. They're beautiful in their own way, and we need to stop having these messages fed to us. And it's so hard, because then we start to compare ourselves to everything. If a man is sensitive about things, if a man cries, if a man expresses his emotions, then he's seen as a feminine man and not good enough as a man. And that's so wrong. But we're fed that. We're fed that if you're a man, you have to be tough and fight. And, you always see men wrestling and men fighting. And if you're in watching the action movies, it's always the man shooting up places, and the man, is tough. And, it's such a burden for men in our country to have this expectation. And when we start to notice these things, and we start to think about these things, and we realize that we're comparing ourselves to things that we've been fed, whether it's through the social media or through society's expectations or standards that are set. I mean, it really does make you angry when you think of, women. We're supposed to be the nurturing and the martyrs and the self-sacrificing, never think of yourself, always think of others, and always take care of others, never make time for yourself. We talked about that last week, and the detrimental things that can come from that idea. But, women are fed that idea that they have to be the one to sacrifice, that they have to take on the world, to keep the family together, to keep everybody happy. The woman has to sacrifice things. And so when we see that, and we see the detriment from that and the comparisons, that woman is such a good mother because look how she's sacrificing for her family. Look how she's sacrificing, all this for her job, and she's doing this instead of caring for herself, or she's taking that money that she would have spent on a trip and she's paying for this for her family, or this for her child, or this, it's just different things like that. And people tend to ooh and ah over those kinds of things. But if you're actually the mother that says, you know what, I know me, and I know to get through to the next part of the next chapter of my life, I'm going to need a break. I'm going to need to just take a break. I need a girls' weekend, or I need a weekend to myself, or even a day to myself, or even a couple hours to myself. And when that person is looked at as so selfish and so self-absorbed, and it's really sad. It's really very, very discouraging to see that us taking care of ourselves and us, taking care of our mental health and trying to say, this is what I need, and make sure our needs are met, that's seen as a negative. And so we get to where we look and we think about things, and we constantly compare ourselves and constantly compare, and I should do this, or I should do that. There's that word, should. And should is such an asshole, because should makes us feel depressed, makes us feel angry. The word should makes us feel so bad about ourselves. It leads to so much negative self-confidence, such a low self-esteem. That word should. I should do this, or I should do this, or I've only done this, so I should not be tired. I should be doing this instead. Or I should have said this instead. I should act this way. I should dress this way. I should. And then we end up feeling far worse than we ever have before we started comparing ourselves and before we started the whole should game. And it's so disheartening to see, because we do then push ourselves and go more, go harder, go faster, and eventually we won't have anything left. All the go without rest eventually leaves us so depleted to where we can't go anymore, to where we don't know anymore, to where we don't know who we are anymore. It turns us into someone that we don't even recognize. We don't even recognize ourselves. And we don't even recognize what we've done. Is sometimes, when you get into that, I got to be better, I got to do more, I got to do, it affects your decision making when you think you should have done this, or when you think you need to do that, or when you think you need to push harder or be better Now, I'm not at all talking about when we want to learn and grow and understand, ourselves or each other. That's different. That's a healthy comparison. And that's good to do. But when we're being so negative and judgmental about ourselves, that's when we fall into trouble. That's when we get so stagnant in places, and when we stop to realize, this is what I've done, this is what I've become, and I don't know how I got here. How did I get here? That's when it becomes dangerous. This whole idea of comparison tends to make us, it affects our decisions, and it affects our choices. And that's the thing, right? We decide this, we make decisions based on, well, if I do this, then I'll be better. If I do this, then people will think I'm successful. If I do this, then people will think I'm a good person, or people will think I'm a good, parent, daughter, son, employee. I'll be a better friend. I'll just look better. And that's the thing. You'll look better, but deep down, will you be better, or will you be yourself? And then how unhappy will you be because you're quote unquote being better? One thing that really, I think it was a real wake-up call for me anyway, when I was going around, just riding around some of the back roads in South Carolina, where I'm from, and I noticed many houses that looked like they were in desperate need of repair. Maybe the roof sometimes had a hole, like a patched up hole, or sometimes was caving in, or the porch would have planks of the porch missing, or it would look like it was leaning. There were structural, foundational problems with the house that really needed addressing, and yet in the driveway would be a Mercedes or a BMW or some really expensive car that probably cost more than the house itself. In a way, it definitely cost more than the repairs to the house. And it's that whole mentality of, well, do I fix my house that no one's really going to see, or do I have drive a car that everyone will see and then think that I am successful and I am fine with money and financially stable, when really I'm not? It's those kind of things. We want people to perceive us a certain way, people to view us as a certain way, when really it's okay to be ourselves. It's okay to be who we are, because who we are is something beautiful. Who we are is okay. And if we do not feel that way, then we can learn and grow about ways to improve ourselves, right? That's when growth happens. We're learning, and we're doing, and we're growing. And so when I think about the idea of comparison, and when I get to a really personal level, and think of myself as comparing myself, I did share earlier my struggles for a long time with body image. And, I never thought that I was pretty enough. I never thought I was the right size. I never thought I had the right body size. I was never pretty enough, and I never. Well, at one point, I thought I dressed to the standards of society, but for many years I didn't. And I thought that, this was just the way I was. And I called at one point in life, I just called myself real frumpy and just said, oh, well, I'm just real frumpy. That's my style, and that's just me. So things like that I shared earlier. But then one thing that I did was that I compared myself to myself. And I'm not saying that's not a good thing to do, but when you do it, you need to have all of the information present. I feel like you can't do that without having the necessary information. And I compared myself a lot. I think all of our situations are very personal and very unique. My situation was before and after my car accident. And I constantly compared myself to who I was before and who I was after. And I wanted to achieve the person that I was before my accident. I wanted to achieve that person because I felt like that person was actually successful at life. That person would continue to be successful at life. I thought that person was better. I thought that I was better, and that if I tried hard, if I did better, if I worked hard enough, that I would be that person again. I recently went to a book signing, and it is a wonderful book. It's called Impact, and it's by Amber Hooker, and she talked about her struggles with having a traumatic brain injury and her struggles with coming back and learning how to walk again, learning how to talk again, learning those different things. So I really connected with her in a lot of ways. And then she said something. She said that she asked her neurologist, she asked him, she's like, when am I going to get back to how I was? This was a former teacher. She had been a teacher for many years and a coach, and she was just ready to get back to the life that she had. And she asked her neurologist, so when am I going to get back to who I was? When am I going to get back to that? I'm ready to get back to that. And he said the most honest thing ever. He said, never. You're never going to be that person again. And it's so true. When you have these things happen to you, you have an accident, or you have, when you have a stroke or some other health incident, it can change who you are. And you want to be that older person, that person before. But you're never going to be that person because you're changed. And by that, I don't mean changed in a good way or changed in a bad way. You're just changed. That's it. But I saw my change as negative. And I didn't have anybody to tell me that I could never be that person again. I didn't have somebody to tell me that you're not going to be that person again, but you can be a new person, and you can be a different person, and you can be just as good as that person, if not better. Maybe that would have changed the way I saw myself. I think it would have. But I just continually, me personally, continued to work and put that pressure on myself that if I worked harder, if I did better, if I did more, that I could get back to that. Not realizing that that was just impossible to get back to where I was. And now at the stage where I am now, I'm understanding that I'm not going to be that, but I need to grow and to be to continue to strive and to continue to do better each day, and that maybe I'm not that person, but I'm this person, and that's okay. That's okay. And I just try and remind myself whenever I get into those negative thoughts and those negative cognitions, because, I've had those for many, many, many years. So it's not like they just go away. You have to constantly fight against them and push back against them and say, wait, that's not true. Here's why, and here is the truth. So I have to remind myself that, it's okay. It's okay to be who I am now. It's okay to think the way I do now. It's okay to speak the way I do now. All of it's okay. And I'll say that a lot. Something will happen, or something will, maybe a problem will arise, and I'll be like, it's okay. I just have to remind myself, it's okay, and just push back against all the negativity that comes up. If I make a mistake, or if I have a struggle, or if I do something or say something that maybe I shouldn't have. Oh, it's really easy to slip back into that negative comparison and to just beat myself up about it. But instead, I'm learning to say, it's okay. This is who I am now. This is who I am now. I either learn from it or I accept myself. I accept myself for who I am now. Because I've learned and I've seen how this negative comparison works. I see how this, I should do this, I should do that. Who is telling you you should? What does that even mean? Who are you trying to impress? What are you trying to do? Conform to society? Are you trying to change who you are? I mean, what does that mean? I should do this, or I should be this. And now that I see that, and I see how negatively it can impact you, how negatively that thinking can impact you, I just push back against it. And I try not to compare. And because we're human, right? We're going to compare. After all, 10% of our daily thoughts are comparisons. So, and comparing ourselves to others. But when I do see those things arise, and when I do see those things, I try and push back. I try and push back against it and say, wait. Why am I doing? So I should do that? Why do I say that I should do that? Should I do that because that's what society tells me I should do? Should I be that because that's what society tells me to be? Because then those are the wrong reasons. Those are not the right reasons to do things. You do things because it brings you joy, because it brings you peace, because it helps others, because you have a positive influence in the world. We're each unique. Every part of us that makes up who we are has some positive light that it can shine in this world. And right now, this world needs a lot of positive light, and we can shine that light. We can shine that light by expressing our views, by helping others, by just being ourselves and not what society tells us we should do. So when you hear that, I invite you that when you hear those that, oh, you should do this, or oh, I should do that, or I should be that, when you hear those things, when you think those things, try and push back and say, wait a minute, stop and ask yourself, why am I saying I should do that? Why am I saying I should do this? Or I should be this? And if the answer is not because it makes me happy, because it brings me joy, because it brings me peace, because it shines a positive light into this world, then it's not the right reason. And I would say to you, you should not do that. And so I want to thank you for joining us today, and I hope I've said something to you to make you think, to help you feel seen, to help you feel heard. I'd love to hear from you. You can go and visit my Substack, melodyparish.substack.com, and just drop me a line. And I want to remind you that whatever you're facing today, whatever your struggle is, you do not have to struggle alone.